JJ the CPA here. Hope you're doing well. So we are not going to have any PPP 2.0 coming anytime soon. What we're looking at here is that the U.S. House recessed July 31st. The U.S. Senate recessed August 13th last night. And it requires an act of Congress and then the president to sign into law any kind of money to get paid out, such as PPP. And even though PPP has been created and there's a fund for it and it wasn't all used, the $138 billion is now in suspense, and Congress is not back until September. With the U.S. House, they are to be back mid-September. The U.S. Senate's to be back right after Labor Day. It is customary for them to do what's called a summer recess. The U.S. Senate was to recess on August 7th. They stayed open almost another week to see if a deal could be struck. But nonetheless, there was the HEROES Act, the HEALS Act, the Restart Act. None of those have come to fruition. And regardless of the dollar amounts, there's not going to be any PPP 2.0. And in my opinion, I don't see that it'll ever actually happen. And the reason I say that is that we are now August 14th. And unless all of a sudden we're all shocked that the House and Senate now want to help America with this next stimulus package that's not coming about, and they all decide to come back, why would that happen? I mean, it's not going to happen. They would have already done it. They would have all been at the table with, takeout food and staying up late and getting it done. So the reality of them all of a sudden waking up on Monday or next week going, you know what, we better all head back to Washington and figure this out is not going to happen. And if you have the U.S. Senate coming back in after Labor Day, 3 weeks from now, you've got the U.S. House coming back a month from now, which I'm sure to those in Congress, that seems like a short period of time. Even though these are good people trying to do their best, well, they're falling short right now. They're getting an F on this assignment. But when they get back in mid-September, let's just say that they do then decide to do something. Well, with the U.S. House back mid-September, even if they can whip something together in about a week, we're at the end of September before probably something's passed. Then we're into October. Why am I telling you this? I don't see there being a deal when we're then 4, 5, 6 weeks away from a major election, in the sense of them all coming together and having kumbaya. We know that when we're in the final 4, 5, 6 weeks of a presidential election, history shows us that that's when everybody runs to the left and runs to the right, and then they've come running back to the center, but no one wants to play together. Everybody's pointing fingers and trying to make sure everybody knows that the other side is really the problem. So they're not going to have I don't think, any incentive to try and put together a deal for us, especially related to the stimulus, because it's going to show unity. Well, then who could they blame? And I'm talking both sides of the aisle here. So I think it's a shame. And then after a presidential election, depending on what the results are, well, people aren't happy, right? One side or the other is going to be very unhappy. But then you have your lame duck sessions, as you say, which just means that after an election till January 20th, it's lame duck as in there's people that got elected out of office, but they're still in office until January, whether that's the White House or the Senate or U.S. House. So I'm more saying this: I don't see any more stimulus coming. I mean, what the president did in executive orders as being reported as confusing, and the states are having to implement something they're not quite sure about. The IRS is still determining if they are going to be able to implement what the president said by September 1. The U.S. Treasury Secretary is unsure about it. All that stuff the president signed into executive order. Okay, one is the eviction through the end of the year. That's great. The student loan through the end of the year, 0% rate, no student loan payments due. The unemployment, $300 a week from the feds, $100 a week from the states. States get to decide if they want to do that. There's confusion on how that's going to get implemented. And then this deferral of payroll tax, the 6.2% tax that's withheld from employees starting September 1 is a question mark of how that'll go about, because there's how do you report that? How do they pay it back? When do they pay it back? How does the employer get it back, etc.? All to say that even what the president put into play, all he could, all he's authorized to do, that's not PPP and it's not stimulus checks. So we're on our own. We are straight up on our own. So I'll have videos coming out. Go back and look at some of the other videos I've been putting together on what if we don't get aid? What do we do now? How do you put together another stream of revenue? How do you get a side hustle? Because it's time to do it. And take a look around, see who you can help. All right, hey, I'd love it if you subscribe, because we're headed to times where you're going to need to get some good CPA information and advice, which is what I'm delivering. And so if you're not a subscriber, I'd love it if you would be. And then don't you ever forget, you've never met a CPA quite like me. All right, let's go.